You have questions? We have answers. Welcome to the Therapist Question Box with your host, Miss Lindsay Schiss.
Welcome back to another episode of the Therapist Question Box. We are here to answer all of your questions. So really ask away. That is what makes this podcast, is when listeners ask and we bring our experts in to discuss. So get on our website, therapyutah.org, or you can go to the show notes and you can ask a question right there. So today I have with me Holly Voisin. Holly, thanks for joining us.
Of course.
So Holly is a therapist at Therapy Utah. Holly, I'd like you to introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you for listeners that don't know you.
Okay. I'm a trauma therapist, a couples therapist, and just attachment-based therapist. And I've been at Therapy Utah for probably 6 or 7 years. I was raised in Alabama and then now kind of landed.
Southern girl.
Yes.
Nice.
Landed in Utah. I've been divorced, so we have a blended family, and most of my time and effort is focused on, trauma and couples work.
Nice.
Individual.
That's awesome. Holly's an amazing therapist and somebody that I learn from and learn with. We've gone to conferences and done a lot together. Yeah. So anyways, I'm happy to have you here.
Thank you.
So today we're going to talk about self-compassion. It's a topic that we've heard about, and actually I think it's interesting because I think it's easier to actually talk about it than actually practice it. So we'll jump right in with the listener question, and it's pretty basic. It's, what does self-compassion really look like day to day? So that is a listener question. What does it look like day to day? I think it's actually so great because it's really basic, and yet I think it's something that a lot of people struggle with. So let's first of all talk about this. What is self-compassion? I mean, is it the same as self-esteem or self-care? Would you say it's different? How would you describe self-compassion?
I would say it's different, but I think defining it exactly like you said is exactly what we have to do, because we talk about it, we hear about it, it sounds great, but to actually put it into practice is harder. And so understanding, okay, what is it? Luckily, we have a lot of the research is based off of Kristen Neff's work, so she has a couple of books, and it's just kind of self-compassion basically has, how she's defined it, which is what the model I follow, is she's defined it as first mindfulness. So it's got 3 steps. She calls it kind of like a 3-legged stool.
Okay.
So we've got the mindfulness. First, I actually have to be aware so that our brain isn't just going into autopilot with our negative thoughts, with our beliefs. We're hard on ourselves. The research says we're a lot harder on ourselves than we are on others.
Okay, let's first talk about that. So number 1 prong of the stool is mindfulness.
Yes.
Okay, so we have to be aware that we're having negative thoughts. Why do our brains go straight to negative thoughts? Because that's what it seems to, doesn't it, right? Like, why did I do this? Why did I say that? What happened there? Why do you think that happens?
I think it's actually a survival tool. If we look at like us looking for the negative, if you go back thousands of years, we're looking at the dangerous things, right? We're looking at if we can stay a member of the tribe. We're looking at, is there anything dangerous coming towards us? And so our brain is much quicker to recognize the negative. Some people use the examples of, we'll drive home 1,000 times, but that time that we were cut in traffic, or the time that something happened, our brains will remember it because it was our brains registered it as kind of harder on our nervous system.
Yeah.
So
it's actually good to hear that. They're like, okay, we're not just like negative as a species, but it actually is helpful for our survival, right?
Yes.
We're looking for threat. We're looking for things that could go wrong to keep us safe. That is helpful actually just to understand. I think that understanding is really key. So, okay, our first step is mindfulness. Tell us about the other 2.
Yeah, mindfulness and not judging our thoughts too. So I want to add that in there too. Just that they just kind of are. We don't have to judge them as bad or good, because they just are coming up naturally.
Okay, before we get to second,
okay.
Sorry.
It's okay.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
Do you know how, like, we can just say, don't judge our thoughts. If actually we were good at that, we could just like close shop and just go home.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, we judge all of our thoughts. It's really hard to just say that's a thought and observe it and be aware of it and not place judgment on it, feel some charge around that thought, right? So let's just really break that down really quickly. Okay. How do you not judge your thoughts?
I think that's where kind of taking a deep breath And that's where I think this is so hard, because it sounds easy, have self-compassion, but that first step, although it sounds like one that we can skip, it's actually one that we need to sit in and kind of say, okay, let me take a deep breath. What are my thoughts, or what are my feelings? And then say, it's okay to have, or just even notice that there they are, right? I feel frustrated, or I feel left out, or I am annoyed, without saying like, I am left out, I'm a bad person, no one likes me, right? Just notice how you feel. It doesn't have to be good or bad. Again, this is a muscle. And so it's not something that will come naturally first.
Okay, good. So it's something we have to practice.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right, tell us number 2.
Okay. Number 2 is kind of self-kindness. And so the biggest one is that some of the things, like when I'm in a session and someone will say something, like I had someone recently say, I'm just so scared to fail because I'm so scared that I'll get a divorce because that means I'm a failure, right? And so just kind of noticing that the way that we talk to ourselves, right? Well, I'm a failure then, or if I mess up, right? If I don't win this game, or if I have a bad parenting moment. So self-kindness would just be realizing that maybe we talk to ourselves the way that we would talk to a friend. We would never say, oh, you're a failure. Oh, you had a bad mom moment. Wow, you're a really crappy mom. Like, we would never say that to someone else, but those automatic negative thoughts will just come in.
Yeah. So I agree with you. How do you actually change that? Like I love the concept of talk to somebody like you would a friend. Don't talk to yourself, in these negative ways. Yeah. But how do you do that? Like, because again, it's like reprogramming, because it's automatic. It's like it happens without you even realizing it, right?
It's the same thing with starting a new habit. It's not going to naturally happen. They say that 90 to 95% of our thoughts or our feelings, they're subconscious, our actions. And so we're just kind of doing things. Like each time you drive to the grocery store, you're not thinking, okay, I need to stop. I need to pause at a light. I need to wait for the green. You're just going. Yeah. And so we've had these negative thoughts. Culturally, we've had them. Religiously, sometimes we've had them. Family of origin, just everything. They've been around us for so long that kind of creating awareness, and it's going to be kind of uncomfortable. It's going to feel unnatural at first to change that thought, but we can't change it if we don't notice it.
Okay, so that's where the mindfulness comes in. Awareness,
yes.
And then we can look at changing it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if we can, one thing that I really liked that they've pointed out in this is that if we don't have, some people, if we've had a lot of trauma, or if we've had a lot of things happen to us, we may believe what so it may not be like if we have trouble doing it, we might say, well, what would that coach say to me that really helped me out, or that leader, or that my grandma was always someone that was really supportive. What would she say to me? Yeah. If we can't come up with it at first.
I love that, because I think I've had that with clients before, where we've talked about affirmations, and it's like, well, but if I don't believe it, then why would I say it? It doesn't matter. That just feels like I'm lying to myself, right? I don't want to do that. So I love that. Like, what would a loving parent say, or a coach, or a friend? What could you hear them say to you? If you don't believe it yourself, maybe this is a way to do it. I think that's an excellent tool. Yeah. Great.
And we'll probably get into it more of like, how do we actually like get into like an exercise of doing that? But first is just, that's the next step, is just how we could do self-kindness. I think we can explore, but just that idea of how do we treat ourselves like a human being, kindly.
I love that. Okay, so number 3, give us a third chair.
Yeah, number 3 is just that it's connectedness. It's realizing, that we're all part of this journey. It's funny because I'll get clients coming in and they're saying, I thought like, when I got the good job, things would get better, or when I got married, or, when my kids were out of the toddler stage, things would get better. And whatever it is, it's kind of realizing, hey, we're all on this journey together. That, probably every mom who has toddlers has a hard time, finding time for herself. Every married person, or any person in a committed relationship, is going to have disagreements. And so it's realizing that we're all part of this connected journey of pain, suffering, but also joy. But this is normal, right? Yeah. We wouldn't say like, so nothing's wrong with you because you can't handle 3 little kids. We would say, of course.
That makes sense.
That makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah, we all remember, and we can all connect, right? Like I can remember when my kids were little and I just wanted to walk down the Target aisle and think about nothing, right?
Yes.
Like
Yes.
we just, of course, things are hard or things are stressful.
Right. You know, as you were saying that, it made me think back to when I had my 3rd child and was experiencing some anxiety and went to a therapist, my therapist at the time, and said to him, talk to him about it. And I was just thinking, I am crazy.
Yeah.
Like, I'm pretty sure I'm crazy. And even if I tell him these things, he's going to be like, yeah, she's crazy. And guess what he said?
What?
He said, you sound like an overwhelmed new mom.
Yeah.
And actually what you're saying is so normal. And I'm not kidding you, just having him normalize that for me, it was like everything I needed. I walked out the door and it wasn't like all of a sudden I was like, oh, I don't have anxious thoughts. But I just felt like I was normal. Like you said, he just normalized it. I felt connected. I didn't feel isolated. Like, oh my gosh, I'm by myself. Like I'm crazy. It made all the difference. I'm telling you, it was like the balm that I needed. It was incredible. So when you say that, normalizing and connecting, it just makes all the difference.
Yeah. I mean, that gives me the chills, right? When we think about, we're all going through this process and we all share all those similar things. And so it makes perfect sense that we would all feel, you know, those human feelings, and just to know that, hey, it's okay that I feel those feelings and it's normal.
Yes. And sometimes we need someone else to help us see
Yes.
that, right?
Yes.
Whether it's a friend or a therapist to say, hey, it's normal. It's okay. Right?
Yeah.
And I think that is where, but here's the other piece. It's where connection comes in, but it requires vulnerability. It requires you saying like, oh, this is what it's been like for me.
Yeah.
This is what's going on in my marriage or with my children. It requires stepping into that vulnerability and trusting that you're safe with this person.
Yeah.
And that's hard to do.
Yeah.
Right?
No. Yeah. Well, and I think you named it. We do want to be vulnerable with other people, but also just being vulnerable with ourselves.
Yes.
Of realizing like, hey, maybe, you know, let me take that automatic thought or even feeling, right? Let me take that feeling if I feel not good enough or I don't feel included, and let me just take it for a second and just look at it. Like I'm kind of pulling away right now, like looking at it and just notice, hey, that's part of human nature, right? Like to feel, you know, to move neighborhoods and not feel like you fit in, or to be going through betrayal trauma and realize I feel so alone, because what part of her research says that we all feel like, you know, it's okay for everyone else. Like it's okay for them to be struggling as a new mom, but something's wrong with me, is where we all feel kind of unique in that. And it feels like that uniqueness, you know, but it's in a negative way, right? Like we're the ones that can't be fixed, or we're the ones that can't handle life.
We've got the unique problem that no one else knows. And so we just better shove it away. Yeah. And instead of that, saying, okay, I love that idea of vulnerability with self. And if you're not watching this on YouTube, what you couldn't see was Holly was pulling it away and kind of saying, looking at it away from her, right? She had her hand away from her, looking at it, as opposed to it being a part of you.
Yes.
And I think that's such a big deal, because then you can have a little distance from it and it doesn't feel so ingrained in, oh, this is me, right?
Yeah.
Even that idea of, you know, when I have clients and they'll talk to me and say, you know, I'm really anxious. And I will just say, you know what? It sounds like you have an anxious part of you.
Exactly.
Let's talk about that part of you, as opposed to, I am this is me. Wait, that's just a part of you that's expressing themselves. Like, you know, it's a part of you. It's not all of you. And that feels better, right?
Yeah. And think about it. When we say, and that's where we can get into parts work, right? But that part of, there is a part of me that feels that, but I am not that, right? Like I am not good enough. Like, right. And I'll always challenge people, and I'll say, would you ever tell your daughter that? Like, would you ever tell your 16-year-old daughter that she's just not good enough? And their faces are like, no, I would never say that. But we take it as just like inherited. This is my inherent flaw that I can't change. And actually, no, this is just a human emotion that's coming up at a hard time.
Yeah, and it's normal.
Yes.
In fact, it's exactly your nervous system, your body doing its work. It's what it's supposed to do. Yeah. So congratulations. Yeah. Right?
Exactly.
I always think that, like, sometimes we don't want to be feeling these things, but there's obviously something going on in our world, our environment, that's making us, it's producing these things. So congratulations, your body's working the way it should, right?
Which thing connects us, right? Like when you say that you had a hard time, I remember Brene Brown talked about her kind of vulnerability, her research. She didn't like what she found, right? She didn't like, okay, I need to be vulnerable, I need to share. And she pointed out that the reason why she's connected to a lot of her viewers is because she actually speaks those things. She'll say, yeah, I am flawed, or yeah, I am scared, right?
So true.
If she just gave off this perfect mold, we don't know her just as an author, we know her as a person. Like there's tons of authors that we have no idea who they are. Yep. But a lot of us who've read Brene Brown, we know who she is because she's vulnerable, right? We were able to connect with her. Oh, she's flawed too.
Yes.
Or, oh, she has something. Like, yep. I remember my sister-in-law, she, I guess it was my ex-sister-in-law, she was raised in one of the most affluent she lived in one of the most affluent zip codes in the country up in Greenwich, Connecticut. And she just kept looking around thinking like, everyone's got it together but me, right? And she looked over at this mom and she saw this mom like grab this sippy cup and just take a huge sip of like a toddler sippy cup. She's like, wow. She's just like she can drink out of a sippy cup. And just that little human to human realizing that like, wow, they're human just like me. They have pain, no matter where we come from, they have pain, they have heartache, they have feelings, right? They feel not good enough at times. Connects us with other people and leaves us not alone, which is something that you said. You left his office feeling, okay, I'm not alone anymore.
Yes, absolutely. I love that idea of like the sippy cup. Like, hey, look at her. She can, this beautiful, probably wealthy woman can drink out of a sippy cup. Like, okay, I can do the same thing. It's not a big deal. It kind of, it gives us permission. You know, when someone decides to be human and be vulnerable and share, it gives us permission to do the same thing and say, you know what? And that's where we find connection, right? Yeah. It's like, I'm flawed, you're flawed. Well, congratulations, we all are, right? That's where we find it. You know, I think one of the greatest joys for me, I was going to say pleasures, that's not the right word, joy, in doing therapy is that you really get to see people's hearts. You don't, and I think often we just see their behavior, you know, in the world, we just see, oh, like, why are they acting that way? Why are they? And in therapy, you really go, wait a minute, what's going on? What's at the deeper level here? And it's connecting. And people also go, oh, I'm not just crazy or I'm not just broken, but there's pain underneath this.
Exactly.
It makes sense maybe why this behavior is not working for me or isn't serving me well, because there's pain underneath that hasn't been addressed, right?
Exactly. One of my favorite books, and again, you'll hear the trauma therapist or the couples therapist come out of me, but that what happened to you?
Oh, I love it so much.
Yeah, instead of
so
what's
good.
wrong with you, right?
Yes.
What happened to you? If we're looking at almost any person and we're looking at their actions or their way that they handle relationships or the way that they handle how they're acting at school or just anything, we would say, okay, what happened to you? It doesn't have to be something huge, but what happened to you, or what did you experience, or did your body experience that created that? And you're always going to find something that's beautiful, something that's tender, something that's sometimes even sad, but it's human.
Yes. Everyone read that book.
Yes.
I'm just going to say it. It is so good.
Yeah.
And whether you're a trauma therapist or you're anybody on the street that says, you know what, maybe I need to understand myself or others a little bit better. Boy, the perspective is so great and it's really digestible.
Yes,
like there's some of these books that are very much like they're very academic. They're kind of in the weeds. Not that one. That one is really readable. It's excellent. So I couldn't agree more. In fact, it's one of the books, again, it's called What Happened to You, that with my students at the U, it's one of the textbooks we use, actually. It's excellent. So,
and I'd love to do a follow-up on that book alone, right? Just that idea.
I agree. You know what? We should do
great.
that. I think that would be excellent because it has so many, and again, it's less about, it's not about the behavior. It's what happened to produce this behavior, to produce this outcome. It's such a bigger holistic view. And again, if we talk about self-compassion, I mean, what is more compassionate than not going, this is the horrible behavior, or why did you think that thought? It's actually going, wait, what's really going on underneath? What's the fear?
Yeah.
What's the pain? What's going on?
And keep in mind, it's how your body registered what happened too. I'd almost want to change the book. How did your body register what happened to you, right?
Yes.
Because some people hear these things and they're like, yeah, that makes sense. They were beat their whole life. Or I was raised in a good family, so why can't I feel good enough, right? Or what am I doing wrong? You know, I've done everything I'm supposed to do. Like, that doesn't make sense, right? And so it's for those big traumas, right? What happened to you kind of focuses on those bigger things. And I think it's important to notice that, like, when you read this book or when you hear about people's stories, again, we're looking at them and we're saying, well, yeah, of course they had a hard time because they, you know, they didn't have parents, or they, something really bad happened to them. But what about me? I had a good life. Why should I feel depressed? It's a good example. Like, I have everything I need. I have, a husband and my kids, and I have everything. Why am I depressed, right? And so it's important just to look at, like, if we look at what the difference between big trauma and little t trauma is, I'll repeat this again just in case. It's when we look at the book, What Happened to You, I almost wish it was called How Your Nervous System Took What Happened to You, right? So it doesn't have to mean that you went through something big, but it could be, instead of like a slicing of the arm, it could just be little ticks. Maybe I went to school and I moved in third grade and everyone knew each other, right? So I didn't know where to sit. Okay, maybe I learned that people don't like me, or that, I'm not good socially. But then we fast forward 20 years, I walk into an activity or a gathering and I'm kind of shy. So then I think people may not like me. And so it's just it can be accumulation over time of those negative feelings and thoughts, but then they can become a self-fulfilling prophecy.
I think that's so important what you said, is that it's when we look at it and we say, that wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a good childhood, or this or that. So then instead of having self-compassion, what do we feel? We feel shame.
Yes.
Like, I'm an idiot. Why did I do that? That's ridiculous. And then what does it do? It just perpetuates the problem.
I knew better.
Exactly.
Yeah.
As opposed to saying, wait a minute. Like, it doesn't need to be some massive thing, but it's how I responded to it. And it's going to be different than the way you respond to it, because all our makeup is different. Our history is different, right? Everything is different. So saying that's okay, that it really impacted me and it might have not impacted you, or vice versa. And recognizing, like, that's okay.
Exactly. And think about it in a self-compassion lens. Say we all have those hard parenting moments, right, that we're not proud of. And we could say, well, I had a good mom. She didn't. What's wrong with me that I could have that moment? And so we get stuck in that judgment, that isolation. And so that's where we can easily get stuck. But then we're repeating that, right? Each time we mess up, we're repeating those negative messages instead of kind of creating awareness and kindness around. I kind of compare it to, I think about the beginning of like Harry Potter, and I'm not a huge Harry Potter person, but like the idea when all those letters started coming in the first episode or the first movie, is that we just keep getting these messages and they'll keep getting delivered. And so it's kind of just questioning those messages. That they can be, I call them kind of like checking the code on a car. They can be messages, they can be information, but we have to kind of notice or they'll keep coming in.
I love that. Kind of checking him.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that again is like distancing yourself from it and just kind of getting curious about it. Like, why do I feel that way? What's going on for me? Right? I had an instance where I had an opportunity I was really excited about, and the opportunity as it evolved, I got pretty clear it wasn't the right opportunity. And so I let the person know that this wasn't the right opportunity for me, and, and felt good about it. It was the right thing. I felt good about it. And yet after I said it, I was like, wait a minute. I just kind of felt this feeling of sadness. So then I immediately questioned, well, why did I do that? Maybe it was wrong. And then I had to just sit back and just kind of take a step away from it and go, wait a minute. What's going on for me? Why do I feel this way? And what I got when I did some work around that and I started asking myself some questions, I got really clear. It still was the wrong thing. It continued to be the wrong thing. But there was sadness around, what could have been, what I thought was an opportunity, what I was excited about. But it didn't make it wrong. Does that make sense? And so kind of parsing that out and getting clear about that, when, like you were saying, just kind of asking yourself and looking at it in that way was really helpful for me to say, okay, the decision is still right. It was not the right decision. And it's okay to have sadness around it. It's okay to feel some grief around that, right?
Exactly.
And so but I love that idea. It took me distancing myself from it. And that's what I'm hearing you say. Distancing yourself from it and just getting curious about it allows you to get really clear about what's going on, as opposed to going into shame and blame around it.
Yeah, you're kind of, and that could lead, maybe it does lead to a quick decision, or it might lead to deeper trauma work, right? It might lead, we just don't know until we take a look at it. One of Kristen Neff's things that she did, she did the self-compassion book, but then she did a follow-up. And it reminds me of what you just said. It's called Fierce Self-Compassion. And when she talks about it, she says she said the yin and the yang. I think she said yin and yang, so she probably said it correctly. But she said there's that tenderness where we want to be kind to ourselves. But she's actually said there's also that fierce self-compassion, which comes in like trusting ourselves, which as women and just anyone in general, right? Sometimes we, to say no and then just have sad feelings, or maybe even have someone else have disappointment, right? They spend all this time interviewing you. We let someone down. That's where we can question that if we can have fierce self-compassion, it's realizing like, yes, I did the right thing. And it's okay that I'm sad, or it's okay that I disappointed someone else, but I'm having self-compassion because it's like maybe like a long-term self-compassion. I'm doing what's best and creating a boundary around what's best for me, which is compassionate.
Yes, I love that. And I love that idea of the yin and the yang,
Yes.
right? Or how I heard that interview too, and I thought, I haven't heard it called yin and yang. So she's probably saying it right, like you said.
Yeah.
But that there is, and I understood it as well as kind of the masculine and feminine.
Yes.
Did you get that as well?
100%. It's not just female, male, just that energy.
Just there's energy. There's more masculine
Exactly.
energy and there's more feminine energy. And kind of being able to combine those two is challenging.
Yeah.
And yet is what we're trying to go after.
Yeah. So it's not just being compassionate. It's also being compassionate that you're doing the right thing for you in that moment.
And it might be uncomfortable. Often it is.
Yes.
Right? But saying, no, I'm honoring myself. I tell clients often, are you standing in your integrity?
Yeah.
Is this what's true to you? And are you honoring yourself? And sometimes it's easy to sell ourselves out because somebody else is going to be uncomfortable, or we don't want to make, a fuss or a scene or whatever. And so we sell ourselves out. But boy, are we honoring ourselves? Are we standing in that yin, right?
Yes,
and then
yes.
the yang of saying, you know what? And I can be compassionate to myself and to them, but trying to honor both of those spaces.
Exactly. Imagine just having one without the other, right? If I'm just, say I keep doing something I really don't feel comfortable doing, like I keep taking on like new assignments and I don't want to do them, right? I can be compassionate and say, yeah, it's really hard that of course, someone that's overworked and overstressed is going to be tired. But one without the other, if I can have the other one, that allows me to kind of set boundaries and create a space where maybe I'm going to take on one assignment and not 10.
Yes. Amen to that,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Don't we all need that? Like,
Yes.
and in doing that, gosh, I develop self-trust.
Yes.
I start to go, you know what? I can trust myself, like to do the right thing for me. I'm not doing it because that's what you put pressure on me, or I felt like I should do this, right? No, I trust myself. That's
Exactly.
a big deal.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Well, and sit in that for a second.
Yeah.
Sit in, even if we want to feel it for a second longer, because what they say about negative thoughts is that we sit in those a lot longer than those positive thoughts. But even that idea is I can trust myself. So when we have those moments, sometimes they call them glimmers, but when I have those moments where things are right, not only do I want to combat those negative thoughts, but I also want to maybe sit, they say maybe at least 30 seconds, sit with that positive thought. I did well on that. I handled that really well. Or that was a really great parenting moment that I had, or that was a great couple moment, right? And so also increasing our positive.
Oh, I love that,
things
Holly.
as
That
well.
is so important. I mean, and you did it to me just now.
Yeah.
You said, slow down, hold on a minute. Like just
Yeah.
take a beat and just recognize what just happened right there.
Yeah.
That's a moment, right? And I would imagine as we do that more, we start to go, oh wait, I have this kind of like bank where I
Yes.
can store these, and now I recognize them. I see them when they happen, and I sit in them for a moment, and it's not just moving on to the next thing.
Yeah.
I think that is huge. And
Yeah.
probably needs some rewiring in our
Yes.
brains,
Yes.
right?
All of us.
Yeah. I really love that idea and think, wow, I could do a lot better with that, right? Being more like sitting in the positive. That
Yeah.
was a great moment. That was a good parenting moment. That was a
Yes.
good couple moment. Gosh, I honored myself there.
Yeah.
Wow. That alone actually could be life-changing.
I know, it gives me the chills.
Really?
Yeah.
Like allowing that and just to percolate in that, as opposed to think how, and if you were to, and I say think about how much more of the negative we do than the positive,
Yeah.
right? Than that. Gosh, give ourselves just a little bit of that. Imagine where that could go.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And there's nothing wrong with us. If you say, okay, well, what's wrong with me that I can't do that? This is human nature. And again, I think all of our human nature, is trying to help us to survive. So nothing's wrong with you if this doesn't come naturally. That means you're human.
Yes.
And we're all working on this together.
Well, and I also think it could feel like this kind of self-indulgence.
Yes.
Right? Like,
Yes.
oh, I'm just trying to be oh, I'm so great. And
Yes.
I'm adulating in my greatness, right? That's not what this is about at all. Like, it's just taking time to help train our brains to focus on the positive and not go always to the negative or the what ifs, right?
Well, and the research backs you up, because she said that's one of her biggest things, is that she hears the complaints of people saying, well, yeah, is this narcissistic, or is this, should I really focus on myself, right? But what they said is the research shows that, you know, when we actually are self-compassionate to ourselves, then we're not isolating and moving away from people and getting stuck. She said, actually, that's the quickest way to learn, to grow, to be accountable. And so if we want to keep moving forward and be able to have the energy to help other people, the research also shows when we're compassionate, we can be compassionate to other people. And so actually it's the opposite. You know, it kind of feels backwards. If I'm self-compassionate, then that's going to like stifle my growth, that tough love kind of thing. But actually self-compassion improves, whether it's athleticism or whether it's, you know, grades in school or anything, empathy for other people. It actually shows the opposite.
Oh, how interesting. That makes so much sense. And understanding that, like, it actually does the opposite. It's such a help, right?
Yeah.
Excellent. Oh, so many good thoughts here, Holly. I really appreciate all the thoughts that you gave, and really just the understanding of how important self-compassion is. Is there anything, as we're wrapping up, that I didn't talk about, didn't ask you, that feels really important, or did we cover it?
I think we covered most of it, but I'd probably just kind of reiterate that taking moments, it's like bite-sized moments of self-compassion. That's not going to happen overnight. And so if we can just take a few more moments, even practicing it with our kids, but also letting them hear us practice it with ourselves, right? Of just noticing like, hey, that was really hard, or I had a bad day, you know, and that's okay, right? Just kind of, I would say, micro moments of self-compassion will add up, because just being self-compassionate is going to sound overwhelming. We're going to be like, well, I can't do that, so I'm going to quit, right? So, you know, keep giving yourself moments. They say giving yourself votes for self-compassion, and eventually it does add up.
Yes, I love that idea. And when we model it, it gives everybody else permission to do it too.
Yes.
Right? It's that same thing. We're being vulnerable, and that increases connectedness. And why not? Like, that's what we want, right? I loved the idea of that 3-pronged stool, the mindfulness, reframing automatic thoughts, and then connectedness, right?
Yeah.
Understanding that. I would love to go back to that book, and I would love to have another interview with you about what happened to you.
Perfect.
Such a great book, and I think we could take more time on that, and it's such a valuable topic.
Yeah.
I love the bite-sized moments. So important. Like, just taking those bite-sized moments and sitting in them, allowing those glimmers of goodness and sitting in it instead of just blowing right through it, just like I tried to do, right? Sitting in it and just taking a beat and understanding that. And I love the idea of questioning the message, you know, saying, okay, just wait a minute. What is the message here? Right. And not trying to say, oh, that happened to me and it shouldn't have, it shouldn't have been that big of a deal. No, it did. And it mattered. Yeah. And questioning the message that I'm telling myself in my brain around the situation, right? It's often not the situation, but it's the message around the situation that's so powerful.
And when we're stuck, you know, look at that message, right? When we say, okay, it's been 5 years and I still can't get over this. Actually check, what is the message that I keep repeating, to see if it's, you know, whether it's a verbal message or whether it's just a feeling in our gut, you know, but just what's that message? I
love that. Well, Holly, thank you so much. I really appreciate this conversation. It's one of those things that we hear about, but actually practicing is a lot harder to do.
It's true.
You know, I really believe that self-compassion is not weakness, but it's really the root of emotional strength. And when we can do that, we can practice it with ourselves. We can practice it with others. We can model it for our children. It will improve connection and our connection to ourselves, not just connection to others, but our connection to ourselves. Yeah. Well, thank you again. And thank you, listeners, for being here with us. We hope that this was valuable and provided some insights for you. If so, please share it and rate and review. It helps us grow and get the word out to everyone else. So until next time, take care.